of some mistakes in the report. Page 1 of the report, line 2 of the executive summary mentions 6 nominees, but there are actually 7 nominees. And that error is also repeated in page 2, line 3. So just those basic corrections. So, Speaker, mine is not to bore the House with a very lengthy statement about matters that don't border on what is before us. So, Speaker, what is before us is the approval of 7 nominees to the Supreme Court. As a House, our basic responsibility is to find out whether the President acted in accordance with the Constitution or not. That's the first fundamental responsibility of the House. So, Speaker, Mr. Speaker, at no point has it been canvassed that the President has acted unconstitutionally. So the Constitution has been complied with. So, Speaker, the second set of questions that we ask ourselves will be the competence, the capacity, and the ability of the nominees. And Mr. Speaker, I have listened to the minority leader and members of the minority side who spoke before me, and they all clearly confirm that the nominees are very, very competent. Indeed, let me repeat what the report, which they agree with, says, that upon careful deliberation, the committee notes that all the nominees demonstrated outstanding competence, deep knowledge of the law, and a firm grasp of judicial ethics. They address questions posed by the committee with professionalism, clarity, and intellectual rigor, reflecting their capacity to uphold the independence, integrity, and dignity of the highest court of the land. Mr. Speaker, this is the testimony of the committee made up of both the majority and the minority members. This part of the report is not disputed. And they add that the committee is satisfied that the nominees possess the requisite qualifications, judicial temperament, and commitment to constitutional values expected of justice of the Supreme Court. So again, the questions that the minority leader raised about whether they can uphold the independence of the Constitution, whether they can uphold the balance that is expected of the Constitution between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, whether they can do that, that is equally answered by this paragraph, which says that the committee is satisfied. That is, the committee made up of the NDC and MPP members is satisfied that the nominees possess the requisite qualifications, judicial temperament, and commitment to constitutional values expected of justice of the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, on the basis of this, I don't think we should belabor the point about whether or not we should approve these nominees. They are obviously qualified, capable, competent, and will do the job. And I want to assure the minority leader that all the questions that he asked us have been answered in the report. Mr. Speaker, except to add a few things. My colleague, Honorable Agalga, has pointed out to this House that within the 8 years period, the NPP led by President Nana Akufo-Addo, appointed 15 Supreme Court justices. 15. Appointed 48 Courts of Appeal justices. Appointed 113 High Court justices. Mr. Speaker, after making all these appointments, in the dying days of his tenure as president, he anticipated that some justices will be retiring. And in anticipation that they will be retiring, he then brought nominations to this House in order that when they retire, he will still have the numbers that he wants to have on the bench. And as a minority, we took a position that we didn't know who will become the next president after Akufo-Addo. But we believe that Akufo-Addo had had enough opportunities to fill the Supreme Court. And therefore, since it was not the case that we didn't have the minimum number to constitute a bench, he should leave the situation like that until the next president assumes office and also has an opportunity to at least appoint the 2 nominees that he wanted to appoint. Mr. Speaker, this really was fundamentally the basis of the objection of the minority at that time. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, the minority joined the majority at that time, and we vetted the 2 nominees. We voted the same way they voted today. They voted against, or they are voting against the nominees. We also voted against the nominees, and they voted for the nominees. A report was written. The report was brought to this House. The only reason why the nominations didn't go through was that he, as majority leader, failed to have the report taken in this House. Mr. Speaker, I am holding a copy of the report. Mr. Speaker, 38th report of the Appointments Committee on His Excellency the President's nominations for appointment as Justice of the Supreme Court, September 2024. Mr. Speaker, the report by no less a person than the person who sits today as the Deputy Minority Leader, Honorable Patricia Apiaje, who was then the Vice Chairperson of the Appointments Committee. She was the Vice Chairperson of the Appointments Committee, and she signed the report. And the report recommended that the matter should be decided by this House. And he was the majority leader. And he failed to bring the report for us to take it in this House to determine the fate of the 2 justices. Mr. Speaker, I am surprised and baffled that a person who had such an excellent opportunity to have the 2 justices, 2 nominees to the Supreme Court taken in this House, and who failed and refused to bring the report for us to take. Today, he sits and accuses the NDC for rejecting 2 nominees. We did not reject them. We voted against them at committee level, and you refused to bring the report. He failed. You failed. I'm surprised. I thought you would have glossed over that part of the history of this House, because that history is against you. Mr. Speaker, I was also of the mind that perhaps we should have fewer numbers in the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, I'm being asked today what has changed. And I was influenced by the fact that most of my constituents constitutional jurisprudence was taught me in the United States. So I am quite attached to the character of the U.S. Supreme Court. Where we have 9 judges. Mr. Speaker, this was my considered view. And indeed, when the Appointments Committee sat, I vehemently canvassed that view. And the Honorable Piaget was there. I vehemently canvassed that view. Mr. Speaker, until I came across a letter written by the current Chief Justice, who explained thoroughly and satisfactorily the need for us to reconsider our view on the matter. Mr. Speaker, Justice Tokono, the Chief Justice, the suspended Chief Justice, wrote a letter on the 14th of February 2024, signed the letter in her capacity as Justice Gertrude Saki Tokono, Chief Justice at that time. Mr. Speaker, it is an 11-page letter to the President, but I will confine myself to the last paragraph and read just that. Mr. Speaker, it says that it is for the above reason that the Chief Justice requests His Excellency the President to consider the appointment of an additional 5 judges to the Supreme Court to ensure the speedy resolution of cases and speedy delivery of final decisions for the nation. This should bring the current number of the Supreme Court to 20 judges. 20 judges, including the Chief Justice. This number will enable the setting of 3 undisturbed panels of 5, 2 panels of 7 or 9 judges to work on any set of cases on a given day, depending on the jurisdiction of the court being exercised in any given week, thereby reducing the specter of constantly reconstituting panels during a day sitting and its effect on pre- and post-hearing conferences. In that letter, the Chief Justice had made a very strong and compelling case why the Supreme Court should have not less than 20 judges. 20 judges. Mr. Speaker, after reading the letter, I became convinced that the court needs to have at least 20 judges. Mr. Speaker, so I'm surprised that the minority leader, who since a petition was lodged against the suspended Chief Justice, has been a key advocate for the suspended Chief Justice, has extolled her virtues, has indicated that she is the best thing that ever happened to the jurisprudence of this country. I'm surprised that one major recommendation that she makes, that the court should be constituted by 20, we should have 20 judges, that today he's opposing her recommendation. I am surprised that you will go to such high heavens to extol her, and yet one key recommendation, one key legacy that she is sought to leave, which is recommending that we should have 20 Supreme Court judges, that you will be against that. I'm surprised. But I can understand. Having failed to process 2, you cannot understand why we on this side will succeed in processing 7 on one day. I can understand. Unfortunately, it has to happen. Today, we will approve 7 nominees to the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, on that note, I urge colleagues to vote adopting
Honorable members, at the conclusion of the debate, the question is, as many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. This Honorable House has accordingly approved the nominations of His Excellency the President of the following persons as Justices of the Supreme Court in accordance with Article 1442 of the 1992 Constitution, respectively. Honorable members, the judges involved are Justice Senyo Jamafe, Justice Sir Dennis Dominic Ajay, Justice Biel Simon Surbare, Justice Philip Bright Mensah, Justice Janapari Ajwa Batels Kuju, Justice Hafisata Amaliboba, and Justice Kweku Tewia Aka Bofu. Honorable members, on your behalf and on behalf of the Parliament of Ghana, I congratulate the 7 judges for the recognition, for the public hearing, and for the approval given by this House. For the public hearing and for the prior approval given by this House.